What's going on, everyone? Um, Try to make this as short as possible. Just kind of recapped my month here. I joined the last week of October, so I'm considering November kind of my first full month in the pack of trading. And just looking through my trades, so overall, I was 9 for 24 and down 16%. So I just wanted to kind of share. I'm done for the month. I'm not trading on Friday. I'm not trading the rest of the day. I had a really bad day today, my worst day. I'll go to that in a second. Actually, I'll go to that in right now. So today I lost on CYCN. I bought it in the pre-market because I thought it was a decent gap and crap play. We've been seeing gap and craps work. It looked good on dilution tracker. It was about 20% from pre-market highs at a support level. The only two things were that it didn't have a catalyst and it was low volume. But the catalyst thing hasn't really been an issue the past couple of days, so I kind of bypassed that. And it was trading 20 million in volume, which was a volume breakout on the daily chart. So I kind of bypassed that. So I wasn't mad. So then it broke my risk in the morning. I got out, but then it immediately reclaimed. And the level 2 kind of sped up. So I was kind of on the fence if that level was even correct, but the level 2 sped up. So then I got back in, I double dipped, and that was the mistake because ultimately it was just a low volume fader. And when I was in it, I just had a feeling it was going to dump at the open. And that's exactly what it did. And typically with my risk, I like to be a little patient, give it an extra second or two, which I did this time, but for the wrong reasons because I just wanted to get back any losses. So it essentially dumped in the open and I took a pretty big loss. Then I traded ZENA for a possible third day surge, and the same thing happened. It kind of dumped on me, and I was too patient at the wrong time. Again, because I was kind of pissed about the first trade, and then I just wanted to salvage anything that I lost, and it just dumped. Like it just cracked support really hard, and I lost. I mean, nearly $1 a share, like 850 to 770, something like that. But then, so that was the worst day of my month. 3 trades, like down 20%, like terrible, mostly because of emotional things. And, but then I won my biggest trade ever percentage wise with AKAN, a reverse split play I took from 146 to 182. So kind of like the best and the worst day at the same time. But regardless, for the month, I was 9 for 24 and down 16%. And I wanted to kind of go over the biggest things that I kind of took away from the month and my trading. So the first things first is for me personally, first green days are on the bench for me. I was 0 for 5 on those and down 21%, and including my biggest loss was a first green day bounce. They need to be in my arsenal at some point. I obviously see the gains with them. I think it's a pattern that's been around for a while, but for the moment, I need to put it on my bench because if I take just those first green days out, I would be profitable technically this month. I'd be up about 5%. The second thing is faders. 0 for 4 on faders and minus 14%. Faders kind of like thinking it's a gap and crap, but not really. It's just a fader, and I'm kind of buying it at like 1030-ish, trying to kind of catch the low. That's just impossible and a bad strategy. If anything, if a fader is going to turn into something bigger, I'm going to wait until the afternoon. I like afternoon plays anyways, and from what I've seen with these faders that do turn into something, there are opportunities in the afternoon, and I could just use that initial low a day that sets around 10:45, 11 as that risk. So I'm not going to be buying faders anymore unless they turn into something into the afternoon. The next thing is tighter risk, but also like respecting it, knowing when to be patient with it, and also knowing when to not be patient with it. So My biggest loss was a first green day bounce on BTM, but if I was just a second more patient, it would have been fine. I would have been in and I could have made a profit from it. Or I could have respected it in the beginning and just had a super small loss and then reanalyzed it when it made the play itself. And ultimately it wasn't really that good of a play, but I could have either just respected the risk at the very beginning instead of kind of being super flexible with it, or when I was super flexible with it and then it cracked, I could have just been a second more patient and then I would have been fine. So when it comes to risk, I need to kind of be super tight with it in certain cases, but then also be a little bit more flexible in other cases. The next thing is letting my gainers run. So with my favorite plays, gap and craps and afternoon pushes, I am 50%, but I'm minus 5%. And that's because I don't let my gainers run. Right, I'm only making like 7-10% maybe on these gap and craps when they're running 30-40%. So I need to let my gainers run, but then also I need to stop double dipping. That's also another reason why I'm negative on my favorite patterns, is because some of these gap and craps I double dipped, and I just can't think of any reason to double dip. Honestly, it's if I'm double dipping, either my entry is wrong or I'm not being flexible enough with my risk. And even if it does go by without me, then I have to let it go. Then again, either I'm not being flexible with my risk, or I'm not having a good entry. And most of the time, if it's going to be that fakey and choppy, I really don't want anything to do with it anyway. And I'm going to have to let it go. And I feel like most of the time it's not going to be that if it's a good play. So no more double dipping. That I can't double dip. There was a lot of my losses came from the faders and from gap and craps. I've had multiple double dips this month. They've all resulted in losses. The only time I double dipped and it worked was BTM, but then it barely worked. So like, if it cracks, it's most likely just going to crack and not work. And if it does rip, I'm going to have to just be okay with a choppy, fakey situation, letting it be. The next thing is with first, and then kind of going into some strategies. With the first green day bounces, what I'm thinking is it needs to touch support, and then I need to see some sort of reaction at support. Either a spike and a dip back to support, that would be the most ideal scenario, or a crack from support and then maybe getting in on that crack. But I can't just buy it at support and kind of play this guessing game. I need some sort of reaction. That's kind of what I'm thinking. We already talked about the faders. I'm not going to buy them unless they turn into something in the afternoon. Sympathy plays, that's another big loss I had. For me right now, sympathies only make sense if there's really strong sector momentum. The Bitcoin, the quantum. I don't want to get caught in the sympathy of like, oh, this price range is running. Let me try to find another stock that's in this price range. I had a couple big losses from trying to do that, kind of trying to pick a needle in a haystack. I think that's really more a misunderstanding on my part. But for sympathies, I really just want to focus on really strong sector momentum sympathies. I think that's when it makes the most sense. With gap and craps, I talked about it in a video in the past. I think I want to start buying them either in pre-market or the first bounce near the open, or the first higher low, not the second higher low. I had a couple losses buying the second higher low. I would prefer a higher low, but it seems that a lot of these reversals are happening at like 933, 934, or sometimes even pre-market. So, and if everything else makes sense, then I think the risk is better buying it right at the open for gap and craps. And then one last thing on Xena, on the third day surge this morning that I lost on, bouncing ball effect. So with Xena, with this third day surge, it already bounced at the level that I was playing at this morning. So we've already talked about this. just a bouncing ball, right? The first bounce big, and then it's do 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 do. And I was playing the do 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 this morning. So with any play, like a first green day or a 3-day surge, if it's already bounced at a certain level, I just don't think I'm going to play it. And if it goes by me, then it goes by me. So those are just kind of some thoughts that I have in my head. On the surface, the numbers don't seem good, but I really, really think I'm heading in the right direction. Because if I just fine tune some things, put some things on the bench that I'm not good at right now, I really think I could find some profits here. Because with the gap and craps, I mean, I really should be profitable if I just let the gainers run, and I should be above 50% if I don't double dip. Just yesterday, I was 7 for 10 and profitable on them, but then today, since I double dipped, I'm negative, but still 50%. So it's a small sample size, but I really feel like I have some good things happening. And like I said, if I just took out the first green days this month, I would be profitable. If I took out just the faders, I would be essentially break even. And if I took out both, I would be pretty decently profitable. My biggest loss in the month was 11%. My biggest win was 25% on the reverse split play, ironically enough. And I think that's about it. So, and then I would say the cherry on top is becoming liberated with losing. Today was a terrible day for me, but I am pumped up for the month of December because I really, really feel like I have learned a lot from my losses, but I feel like I've seen just a glimmer of success with these gap and craps and afternoon pushes. And like, again, if I just tighten some things up and tighten my risk and kind of remove the things I'm not good at right now, I really think I could be headed in the right direction. I truly, truly believe that. Overall, from an emotional standpoint, I'm never going to be perfect, but I really feel like I'm okay. Maybe a little over trading. I'm experimenting, so a little over trading this month, but I don't feel like I'm Billy. I don't feel like I chase. I don't really revenge trade too much. But again, I'm not perfect. I had some emotional moments this morning, but for the most part, emotionally, I feel like I'm in a decent spot. Of course, I could always get better. I just feel like I gotta put everything together, fine tune some things, and I am okay with losing. I'm pumped up for the month of December, and let's get after it.